And welcome back, everybody. So we have moved on to the last of the three multiplayer modes here. So we're taking a look at Disc Arena, which is, well, as you were saying before, this is this is one that might be a little bit more remembered as. This plays a lot more like some of the original, Discs of Tron arcade game and things like that. This is much more. It's arena combat, but as people can see here, it's very small arenas with very, it's not very free-flowing. There's a lot of platforms and stuff that you really have to watch your environment much more closely.
Yeah, I actually did an interview with one of the people who worked on the game. I posted an interview on my blog site a few years ago. I was like blown away that somebody from the team actually got in touch with me. After the mod was released. That's the only really amazing thing that's happened, I guess you could say. And I talked to him about what he did on the game, and he was responsible for the Disc Arena.
Okay.
So I asked him some questions about it, and he said that, as you already mentioned, that this is directly inspired by Discs of Tron, the arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what this is, what he meant it to be.
Yeah.
So the
you can definitely see that because this was, well, Discs of Tron at the time was quite it was pretty impressive in that it was an arena combat game which in that which was in that arcade era a pretty impressive thing, and it's still neat even in a modern context because it's fairly challenging that you have these limited platforms you can walk on and they can get destroyed and things like that, and it's much more about precision than sort of just free-for-all blowing each other up. So it's a very different kind of thing. I can't remember if what the hell is that? You might know this. There's a Valve game that's a lot like this.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
How am I forgetting this? Because it's one of those games that people keep bugging Gabe Newell to make a sequel to.
Ricochet.
Ricochet, thank you. Yeah, this is kind of sort of like that.
Codename for Ricochet 2 is codename for Half-Life 3. Anyway.
Oh God, it won't.
But seriously, Ricochet, which is basically the same idea, but a lot of people didn't like it.
Yeah, it was kind of it had its niche group, but yeah, I never played a lot of it, but I remember it was kind of sort of like this. But this is what I and this is what people found, stuff like this is what people found so memorable about Tron 2.0 is that all the multiplayer that it did have, it was not the sort of generic tacked on, this game has to have multiplayer kind of multiplayer. It was very much the they tried to do everything different and make it all uniquely Tron-like. So you had the light cycles and you had your arena mode, but with the Tron weapons, and then you had this, which is its own kind of crazy thing, which I really like.
Well, this was then again, it didn't help that DRS came so late in the game, that they released it as part of a patch much later, so I think people didn't even know it existed, that mode. But this was definitely quite popular. Light Cycles was the most popular, but this was still pretty popular. This mode as well.
Yeah. No, I did play some of this. Light Cycles is what I tended to do most of my stuff on, but this is... I did play some of this. As you guys can see, this is kind of the idea of this is it's just one-on-one battles. It's team-based, but it's one-on-one and it's sort of rotating through here, and it's basically about, they're very short matches, but your goal is to try to take the other guy out to score 2 points for your team, and then it's the team with it comes down to team victory. You're trying to do team victories, but you're also playing in one-on-one battles, which is what kind of makes it interesting. And it's very, very fast-paced. These are not long individual battles that you're on. And it's there we go. Got him.
Yeah, there were a lot of players who prided themselves on being very good at this mode. They were kind of like, they felt like they were kind of like the ninjas of Tron 2.0, so to speak, you know?
It definitely requires, I mean, I could see it requiring a certain amount of skill and precision, especially if you're trying to hit moving targets. Like, hitting moving targets with these discs is pretty tough if you're out of practice with it.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, this was also the game mode, and those players I'm talking about were the ones who are kind of, arrogant.
Kind of dickish.
Yeah, they were dickish. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good way of putting it. So, that kind of didn't help.
No, certainly
But
not.
what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's understandable. I could see this one being the one where the really good players get the kind of their elitist hats on.
Yeah. The
Wow.
thing with me, well, okay, getting back to Living Dead and DSO, which were the two separate groups at one time, which merged. LD specialized in DRS deathmatch, and
Okay.
DSO specialized in Disc Arena. So basically, the best players in DRS, well, okay, you can argue that point, but the best players in DRS were in Living Dead, and the best players in Disc Arena were in DSO. So now, because of that, unfortunately, I suck at Disc Arena. Always
Yeah.
have, always will.
Yeah.
So, those arrogant players would love to lord that over somebody like me, like saying,
No
you
doubt.
suck,
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, come to DRS and then I'll show you.
Yeah, we'll show you.
Yeah, so.
So as you can see, oh jeez. Then you see, this is what can make things interesting, is the environment can change right under your feet sometimes if you're not paying attention. So
And if you notice, there's like these red circles above. If you hit
Yeah.
those, it causes random things to happen. So.
yeah, I noticed that it makes random changes to the arena, which is kind of cool. So is this a custom map as well, or is this a
Yep.
retail? This is custom, yeah.
These are all custom.
These are all custom. Okay, I actually really like the design on some of these. They're very slick looking.
I think I said it before. The vast majority of maps are made by Existence, who's a member of LDSO, and this is one of them.
Yeah, this is pretty. This guy clearly was able to pull off some, like, this is one of those guys who were like who probably, like, if it was a number of years earlier, probably could have used these as like a job application to Monolith or another developer, being
Definitely.
like, look, I know how to make some killer levels.
There were people saying it, and I totally agree with them. They were saying, you know what, this could have been an expansion for Tron 2.0. They could have sold this as like an expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. This was sort of before a couple of years before DLC as we know it was a thing, but
Yeah, DLC.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
if they were making an expansion pack, they could definitely have put these in it if the multiplayer had more legs to it.
Yeah.
But
I have a love-hate relationship with DLC. I mean, like, it's
I do
great-
too.
It's great that they produce more stuff for the game. It's like, that's great, but they do so at the expense of modding, Like, they don't
Yeah.
want people to be able to mod because they're afraid then people won't buy the DLC.
Yeah, well, that's basically what happened with the Battlefield games, which used to be very, very mod-friendly, and then starting with Battlefield 3, they pretty much removed the ability to do that, mostly because they wanted to, they wanted to sell expansions to it, which
And
was a
I
bummer.
don't understand that line of thought. I don't agree with it.
No.
I mean, if the content is good enough from the publisher, people will buy it regardless, whether or not there's free stuff out there.
Yep, that was always my thought as well. Is I'm like, and a lot of mods, especially if they're small teams with big ambitions, take a long time to come to fruition. So but whereas if you're getting developer-made content, it often comes a lot quicker. So if you don't want to deal with the whole waiting for a mod to mature or whatever, you don't have to in that case. And
Yeah.
I always thought there was a market for that too. But yeah,
And
and you know what? That's the thing that I like is that I find that in some ways that's starting to swing back now with things like Steam Marketplace and a lot of these other games that are trying the whole user-made content angle.
Yeah, that's great.
It's starting to swing back around, and the thing that's great about it, that I think what's really killer about that, is companies like Valve are finding ways for the mod makers to actually profit from it too.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You don't have to do it for free anymore. A lot of them do, and a lot of the best mods in the world are stuff that was made purely for free, but now that people can actually make money off of it. And I remember reading an interview on Giant Bomb a while back with one of the big, like, Dota 2 item makers who makes like a friggin' six-figure living off of off of that stuff, and I'm just like, it's an amazing world we live in where that's possible.
3, 2,
Yeah.
1.
I mean, it's really cool.
I'm gonna say something else that'll probably get me in hot water. You're probably gonna have people yelling at me when they watch this video of all the things I've said. You know,
It's YouTube.
ass.
Everybody yells at everybody.
But the thing is, regarding competition between free mods and DLC, let's face it, the majority of mods, especially when people start out modding, their mods suck. They're bad. They're terrible.
It's all a learning experience, right?
Right. So, I mean, what do they have to worry about? You know, the majority of mods stink anyways. You know, there's a few people that are talented and do a good job, and that's great, and people will download that. But realistically, how many really good mods are going to show up, even if they allow you to do it? Not many.
And how many are a threat to the business of the developer or publisher, really, you know?
Right. I mean, okay, maybe one really fantastic mod comes along to a game, you know, that's free. And people download and play and they go, oh, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then after a while, it's like, okay, I've had my fill. Now what? You know?
Yeah.
So, and that's where the publisher DLC comes in to fill that void. It's like, okay, now people want to play something else, so we can give them this.
And even if not that, you know, another thing that Valve learned early on is those few modders that come along that are really, really good are people you maybe want to get on your payroll.
And that's another thing, yeah, exactly.
You know, a lot of the best modders, I mean, hell, some of Valve's better games came out of the mod community because they went, holy crap, this is so good. How about we just pay you dudes to make stuff for us full time?
Absolutely.
You know,
how many games has Valve taken and turned into you know, retail games that were mods? So many.
Counter-Strike, Day of Defeat, Portal. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Ricochet. That was I believe that was a user-made mod originally as well. You know, Dota 2 started as a mod. Well, Dota started as a mod, and then Valve, you know, commercialized that with some of the original people. So, and I do find that's because that was the thing. It took being able to have the other publishers monetize this stuff for them to get interested, but a lot of the big guys now have taken notice of what Valve's doing, and even though they're only doing it because they can get a cut of the money now, at least it is encouraging these companies to actually pull it off because they can see that there's money to it. Like it would have been very interesting if this game had come out in this day and age with that kind of support. You know, what you guys would be able to do, would have been able to do with it, I think would have been quite interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just about every game since Half-Life from Valve has been a mod that was turned into a retail game. I mean,
yeah, in many ways, yeah, in most cases, it's very true now that I think about it. But
yeah,
and it's nice to see that in it is a different form, but that in some ways, yeah, that stuff is sort of circling back around, and I think, you know, people will be Valve keeps how much money they make very close to their chest, but I'm sure there are a lot of big players in the industry seeing how well this stuff is succeeding and going, maybe there is merit to this.
If they're not making millions, they must be making billions.
Oh yeah, it is a truckload regardless. There's no doubt about that. It's
3, 2,
pretty nuts.
1. Begin.
But it's interesting, and yeah, it's yeah, the I guess the extra bummer about this, but I guess when it's with this game, it doesn't matter so much because you're working with a sort of static version of the engine. But I guess it's funny because when I was looking up, because I remembered that this game was actually based on Monolith's own engine, and they were one of the few companies from this era who, like Epic and id and a few other companies, actually took a stab at licensing their engine out to other people.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually did successfully for a while, but it was interesting because they spun their engine business off into another company, and then it licensed to a bunch of people, and then that company quietly just stopped existing. There isn't a lot of, and there's nothing really out there about that I could find. I was just like, their website doesn't exist anymore, and their Wikipedia entry is just like, yep, their website doesn't exist anymore, and it looks like, I guess, they just decided, you know what, against Unreal Engine, we're not going to bother.
Yeah. Well, from what I know, from what little I know, what happened was that, as you said, they spun it off and they licensed it out, and mostly budget developers licensed it, you know, like from other countries who didn't have a lot of money to spend on an engine. They went for Lithtech because it was cheap.
Yeah.
Hate to say it, but it's true. It was a cheap. I mean, not that it was a bad engine. It was actually not bad for the time. It
They
was
made the
pretty
two
good.
Condemned games in it, which look damn good even now.
There's one game called what the hell's the name of that game now? Oh damn it! Now I can't remember again. I hate that. There's a game that was made in Poland on this engine.
I saw that when I was looking up its Wikipedia entry the other day. Bollocks. Yes, I know what you mean.
Jeez, I can't remember. Something with time, that was part of its title.
Yeah.
I can't remember the full title right now. Something time.
Yeah.
Anyway, it looked gorgeous for the time. For 2004, when they released it, it was like mind-blowing on this engine for the time. I couldn't believe how good. Even now, it still looks pretty darn good,
Yeah, and I mean, they did Condemned 1 and 2 were done on this engine. The Fear games, at least the first two Fear games, were done on this engine.
Yeah,
which looked absolute. Fear 1 looked state of the friggin' art at the time when it came out. I remember that.
A massive overhaul on the engine for Fear, starting with Fear.
Yeah.
But even in Tron, it's still pretty good, for the time anyway. And then Touchdown, which was licensing this out, slowly stopped licensing it for whatever reason. Probably because of demand. Demand withered away because of Unreal and whatever.
Yeah. And writing upgrades to it, I'm sure, requires a lot of money and manpower. So it was probably they were probably like, we probably can't afford to keep doing this.
Yeah, so they just, and I think it had a lot to do with Warner Brothers, to be honest. I think they said, this engine licensing thing, what a distraction this is. We don't care about it, Let's just drop it. That's probably what happened.
And it's interesting because, like, Valve still maintains Source Engine, and Epic obviously does Unreal, but I remember hearing right after Bethesda or ZeniMax bought id Software, I remember reading an interview with John Carmack where he basically said that id Software actually never wanted to be in the engine licensing business. They just started doing it because so many companies were approaching them, basically begging them to license out their engine. And he was like,
really?
well, I guess there's money to be made here, but he's like, I don't want to have to support other people and all this other stuff, and that's why no one really Bethesda actually stopped licensing out id's engine because they were just like, nah, this isn't worth it.
Oh, I didn't even realize that he didn't want to. I thought that was a given.
No, he thought it was very similar to what you were saying about this engine, is that he thought it was just too. He thought having to do tech support for third-party companies and all this was too big a headache and too big a production. He was like, I know, I just like writing my own engines, but it did make id money for a few years. And he kept doing it, but this is a neat map. But he actually hated doing it. And then when ZeniMax bought id, he was kind of their idea was to do kind of like with what EA is doing with Frostbite. They just made id the sort of Bethesda engine. And they just said, we're not going to license this anymore. And Carmack was like, that's great, because I don't want to do that anyway. Which I thought was interesting. And obviously, Epic kind of ran with it and sort of dominated, in many ways, the AAA engine space last generation. And they still are in some ways. But I can only imagine it must take an incredible amount of resources to maintain something like that and keep up to date with it. And I imagine, like you said, because Lithtech was being licensed by a lot of smaller budget developers, and that they were just kind of like, probably not worth it. If they managed to stick it out until like this era, maybe they could have made it like a smaller competitor to like Unity or something like that.
Yeah,
but
you know what? That's very true. That's a shame if you think about it. They probably could have been a competitor to Unity. Indie games.
If they hung on a few more years, they would have been. They could have found something to do with it. But yeah.
Well, as far as I'm not 100% sure, but as far as I know, they still use Lithtech for their latest games for like what is it, Middle Earth or whatever. I think they still use Lithtech for that, but
they might. It's just their internal version.
Yeah, they don't give it out anymore. They just use it themselves now.
Yeah. And it would make sense, because if there are guys still at the company who know that stuff and they can just modify it internally and they don't have to support people, it saves them a lot of money in that case over paying somebody else a chunk of their royalties for another engine. I imagine it's all very interesting. This is the stuff that I've followed with games for years. I find this weird sort of behind the scenes business stuff oddly fascinating for some reason.
It is kind of fascinating. Yeah. And as far as I know, Black Powder Games, which is now most of Monolith, moved on. They use Unreal now.
Yeah, they do. I remember they were talking about that they went to Unreal because it was just it was familiar and easy to pick up. But
Ouch.
oh, there we go.
Grr.
Yeah.
2, 1.
This is yeah, these maps are really cool. I have to admit, I really like the traversal and stuff in these. I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, this is another one by Existence. You know, I may as well not even bother saying it anymore. Like,
He made them all.
This one was Existence. The last one was right. What were we playing last? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That
the
was
last
by
one.
Existence. Probably the next one is by Existence, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all
very cool. Like, these are maps that honestly, like, if somebody just put this down in front of me, this game in front of me, and didn't tell me there were mods installed or anything like that, I could easily believe these were stock maps.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you could definitely these definitely look like something there that would be done by professionals. It's really something else.
I don't like to brag, but then again, this isn't my map, so I guess I'm not technically bragging. It's Existence who did this, and props to him, man. He's amazing.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I wish he was still doing it. He's kind of like dropped out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He's not doing it anymore, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is too bad, but it's very neat though that it definitely looks like you guys managed to put together a fairly substantial collection of maps for all the different game modes, which I think is pretty amazing. Like, it's not one or two or whatnot. You know, it's quite a selection.
When it comes to Disc Arena and D-Res, we've done our fair share of maps, definitely. For Light Cycles, not so much. I think we did a few, some of us, but it's mostly the rest of the community that did the Light Cycle stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's... No, it's pretty impressive. I mean, there's a lot of games out there that have custom maps, but a lot of them are bad, and there often aren't very many of them. But this game has both a large volume, and they're all pretty good.
Well, to be fair, no.
Well, at least what we've seen, I guess. Yeah, I guess you guys got to pick and choose the ones that went in your package, but.
Basically, I'm showing you the best of the best. So I'm gonna be honest, and again, people will shoot me. Not all of them are very good, but here's the thing. The support was so poor for the editing tools that people had a hard time making anything good, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, early on, like you know, quite a few of the maps are very early on, and that's why they're not good. It's because, you know, the support was so lousy.
And it's a real testament to how good some of these are that people were able to do that, essentially having to, you know, learn the language of this game with basically no explanation whatsoever.
Exactly.
Which is a pretty impressive thing to figure out.
Yeah, when it comes to the Light Cycle maps, the majority of them are made by fans in the community that never got together like we did to, like, form a group or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's pretty darn impressive.
3.
And yeah, and like I said, I said previously, yeah, it really kind of astounded me when I went looking. This is a game I just assumed because I actually thought at the time I thought this game had done worse commercially than it actually did even, and I just assumed. When I was looking for information on running this from my series, I was just like, well, it's probably going to be hard to find stuff for this. I bet there isn't anything out there for this. And I was like, holy crap, there's a huge amount of stuff out here.
I think if it wasn't for the dedication of the fans, you probably wouldn't have found much.
No. Likely not. No.
Disney definitely doesn't care. For them, this game is dead and buried. It's gone. You know.
I mean, this is something that you haven't even seen this game come out, because Disney is one of those publishers that, like, doesn't even seem to be interested in working with companies like Good Old Games or anything like that. So you don't even see a release of this on there or something like that, which I think would be friggin' amazing.
I'm really hoping that Good Old Games can convince them to. Allow their catalog onto their service, because
be so good.
This game can come back, as well as some others that they did, you know, that were, you know, decent, if not spectacular.
Yeah, the rumor is that we talked about this offline before, but yeah, the rumor is that Night Dive Studios, which is a company that formed a little while ago, pretty much for the express purpose of taking old games that have been abandoned and getting them onto, getting them released for modern systems. The rumor is they got the rights to resell the No One Lives Forever games. So I'm hoping
that's
that
true.
we'll see those on GOG soon, which I will buy those day one. That would be freaking fantastic. This is tougher because I think Warner Brothers probably owns No One Lives Forever, whereas this is a Disney joint, so this is a much bigger. Yeah. This is harder for them, and because Disney isn't even really into games anymore, I'm sure GOG is kind of like, who do we even call there?
Well, what I'm hoping, because there are rumors flying around, what I'm hoping is that because Disney now owns Lucas, they also own LucasArts. You know. And the thing is I know for a fact that GOG's been trying to get LucasArts games onto their service.
Yeah, they have.
So, in order to get LucasArts games, they have to talk to Disney, right?
Yep.
So now my hope is that while they're asking them for the LucasArts games, they'll say, by the way, what else do you have? You know, it's like, oh, Tron 2.0.
That would be and that would be really good. And I mean, there has been. Oh, this is neat.
Oh, this is retail map now. We're back.
Oh, this is actually retail. Okay.
Yeah, this is stock again.
Yeah, they actually have demonstrated now that Disney is willing to bend a little bit, because they announced at E3 that Double Fine's getting to do that remake of Grim Fandango for PS4, which I'm like, well,
right.
it's a sign they're starting to bend in some ways, which is really
better
cool.
show up on PC, which is apparently going to happen. But anyway,
apparently it's coming to PS4 first, and then it's going to come everywhere else slightly later.
Yeah, that's the rumor. Yeah,
I'll buy it for PS4 and Vita just to be able to play it there right away. But yeah, it'll oh geez, oh bugger. Yeah, it's gonna be that's gonna be really cool. And yeah, I hope, because the nice thing is GOG has had at least seemingly so much success in the last number of years that their clout at getting in with publishers and being able to demonstrate to them, hey, yeah, selling your old games DRM free for $5.99 can actually make money. They seem to be having a much better time at convincing people that this is something that's doable now. So my hope is that they can bend someone's ear at Disney. And
I think at this point they've been around long enough and been successful enough that it's like, hey guys, you know, like, come on, you know, look at what we've accomplished so far. Do you really think that it's not worth it to, you know...
We're not just some wacky guys in Poland with this crazy idea. We actually did make a functioning business out of it.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's... I hope so, because, yeah, I would love to see if this game could come out on GOG, and especially because GOG has been known to incorporate some of the biggest mods into their re-releases. Like if GOG was able to do something where they were like able to release this and either work with you guys to incorporate your mod or something else like that, I could see the multiplayer in this actually getting a pretty big boost out of it.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because there's been a bit of controversy about that regarding GOG and mods, because with System like I know some guys in the System Shock 2 community. Yeah. Like I'm a fan of System Shock 2 as well.
Oh yeah.
Actually, it's my favorite game. Period.
It's pretty damn good. I played it with a friend of mine a long time ago. It is pretty excellent.
Yeah, Shock Tron 2.0 is not my favorite game actually. Oh no.
Oh gods. Traitor.
System Shock 2 is. But Tron 2.0 rates very highly, so don't shoot me. But yeah, so I know some guys in the System Shock 2 community, and they were kind of pissed off with GOG for a little while, and Night Dive, because what happened is they took a mod without permission. They just went ahead and used it without asking them or crediting them or anything.
That's pretty shitty.
So then they went after GOG. They said, hey, what's the deal? And Night Dive. And then it's like, oh yeah, whoops, you know, so...
Sorry.
So eventually it got worked out. They credited the mod and, you know, said that that's what they used to fix the game and everything, but they didn't do it at first, so that kind of pissed those guys off.
I know. I do remember. I think my hope is that they've learned a bit from that, because I remember there was controversy as well. Actually, with we talked a few times in these videos about Revolt, and I did when I went to do my retro flashback of that. I'd heard it was on GOG, and I was like, oh good, I'll just buy it from there and I'll do my video on it. And I went to get it from GOG and I couldn't find it. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? So I ended up looking it up, and it turned out, yeah, they had a similar problem, which was that the company that bought the rights to Revolt, because Revolt was an Acclaim game, so Acclaim went under, actually not too long after this came out, and the company that bought the rights from Acclaim to that game then sold them on to this company, this like free-to-play company from Korea.
Oh boy.
That wanted the game mostly to make mobile games out of it.
Oh god, yeah.
And what happened was GOG got in touch with them and said, hey, we'd like to put the original on our service. And they were like, hey, cool. And it was a very similar thing. Revolt has a very dedicated modding group as well.
Oh,
and,
good for them.
This company took the latest version of their mod without asking and submitted that to GOG. Like, GOG didn't do it. It was actually, apparently, the company who owned the IP did it. And they just submitted that to GOG saying, all right, here's the complete game. And they were like, okay, cool, thanks. And then they put it out, and the modders came out and went, what the living hell? And GOG went, oh, we didn't do that. The other guys did. And GOG actually pulled the game from their service, which is why I couldn't find it. And
that's kind of good news, I guess.
Well, they said they pulled it from their service, and they're like, and they actually posted like an apology on their board saying, yeah, we didn't know about this. We're not going to put this back up until something amicable can be worked out between the developer. And I guess the Korean company has just been like, we just put this out because we thought it would make some extra money. We don't really give a crap, so it stayed gone, sadly.
Probably their attitude, and this is going to be typical, I think, of most publishers or developers, is they're going to say, well, it's our game, so whatever you develop based on that, the derivative of it, is still ours. You know, it's our property, you know.
And what the modders actually said, and the reason that GOG pulled their mod down is what a lot of the modders said. I guess the modders actually wrote some custom code of their own to make the game work on modern systems and for the multiplayer, and they were like, well, you don't own that.
Yeah, right, true. That changes things a bit if they went that far, if they went into like writing custom code. Then
so that's why GOG basically went, yeah, we're going to pull this down until you guys can work this out. And the other company was like, it sounds like the other company was like, well, we really just wanted this for mobile games, so whatever, we're just going to leave it. Which was kind of a bummer, but because Revolt was actually a really friggin' good game. One of the few good games that came out of Acclaim.
It's funny that you mentioned Acclaim, because that reminds me of something. Did you know that the majority of Buena Vista Interactive employees were made up of former Acclaim employees?
Well, that explains a lot. I am not surprised at all to hear that, actually. But
when Acclaim went out of business, a lot of them moved over to Buena Vista Interactive.
And that worked out so well.
The marketing director on Tron 2.0 was from Acclaim.
Oh, that's too funny. And I mean, to be fair, you know, Acclaim's failure was probably not the result of most of the rank and file people, but definitely don't want to throw them under the bus.
It's
but
the management.
Yeah,
it's always the management.
Yeah, it was. And
yeah, you know, in case anybody from Disney Buena Vista hears this or sees this, I just want to say, I don't hold everyone responsible. You know what I mean? Like, it's not their fault. The people who you know are responsible for administration and actually putting things out or getting things done, they don't make the decisions. It's the management. They have nothing to do with it.
The moniker may be tainted, but there were probably a lot of good, dedicated people involved in this game.
It's the same for every developer and publisher. Like even Ubisoft right now is getting creamed in the press. I'm sure that
for some boneheaded things where you're kind of like, someone at the top has got to be going, no, don't stop saying that.
Yeah. I'm sure that the programmers on Watch Dogs were like heartbroken that, you know, some of the work they put into it didn't get done or, you know, released in the final version. And modders had to re-enable that stuff, you know, to improve the game, to make it look better.
Yeah.
I'm sure the management told them, you know what, we don't have any more time for this. Ship it. You know, we don't care what state it's in. Ship it. You know, and it's like, but
it was delayed once already. Get it out the door.
Yeah, but there's all this cool stuff that we don't have working. You know, it's gonna be so much better. No, ship it.
No. And I've talked to a couple of people like that who have been in situations like that before, where they'll say, where they'll be like, yeah, there's so much we wanted to do and they just wouldn't let us, and it is kind of the reality of the corporate world in any creative business, I guess. But creative always tends to be at odds with the business reality of things.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But yeah, I know this came out at a very interesting time where we had, a lot of the industry wasn't going through the level of transition it was now, but this was very much the period of time when PC's dominance was starting to wane a little bit and consoles were kind of ruling the roost and dictating a lot of the decisions that were being made with regards to how some games were produced. And it was interesting. This was we sort of talked about this before. This was sort of right on the tail end of that era, right when it was kind of flipping back to the console level. And consoles are still a thing now, but now between the indie game, sort of indie game movement and mobile stuff and the resurgence of PC in a way that nobody saw coming, it's kind of a very weird and different world again now.
Right now it's really confusing about all the, different platforms and the way things are going with indie and so on. It's like, who knows what's going to happen in the next few years.
And people being allowed to sell games that are, literally not done yet, and all this other stuff. It's a hell of an environment. It's interesting and exciting, but at the same time, it can be a little daunting to keep track of it all.
Yeah, the whole early access thing. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that.
I've been very mixed on it as well. I have a few early access games in my Steam library, mostly from developers I trust. Like I have DayZ. I don't think I actually bought DayZ. I think somebody bought it for me, but I have a couple of things like that. But yeah, I definitely don't tend to buy into that to the level that other people do.
Yeah, my biggest fear as people are finding out is that they announce a game, they develop it for a while, and then they say, you know what, we can't be bothered anymore, and they abandon it, and then
or this didn't do as well as we wanted, and meh.
Yeah, like Towns.
Towns, yes. I didn't own that game, thankfully, but yeah, I read about that quite a bit, like how the original guy had actually abandoned it quite some time ago, and then he handed it over to like a contract programmer who was trying to maintain it, and then he was like, well, I can't live off this anymore, so I have to stop too, and it was
terrible.
I mean, some of this is shaking out just because it's such a new phenomenon, but yeah, it definitely makes people, makes people feel a little wary, to be sure. But
that's why I will probably never buy an early access game, because I just don't want to take the risk of buying something that might never get finished.
Yeah. No, and that's always a thing too. I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting to see where stuff goes. I do hope we get to see. Obviously somebody can't, some indie dev can't make their own Tron game right now, specifically at least, but kind of like they did with, Armageddon actually did use the word Tron in the name, I suppose, but I would, sort of, he kind of dodged it, but I would actually love to see somebody take a shot at making principally a single-player story-driven game in this kind of weird sort of cyber universe type thing, something that's like, this is not Tron, but it really is kind of.
That's kind of what user error is in a way.
Yeah.
Our single player missions that we released, and you bring up an interesting point, because people have asked us, they've said, why are you still making stuff for Tron 2.0? Why don't you move on to like Unreal or Unity or whatever, right? Make something in there. Make
an interesting
a
question,
Tron,
I guess, but
make a Tron knockoff, right? Something like Tron, close enough, that people will appreciate it, will like it, but obviously not Tron, because otherwise you'll get the hell suit out of you by Disney, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we tell them, we say, look, we want to make stuff that's actually using the Tron IP, like real Tron stuff, Tron characters, Tron story. And if we did it as like a free game or expansion to another engine or whatever, Disney probably wouldn't like it, they'd get pissed off at it.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid that, we make mods for an existing Tron game. So we either have the choice of Tron 2.0 or Tron Evolution, and that's it. That's our choices. And frankly,
Evolution would be a lot harder.
Yeah, frankly,
in addition to not being as cool.
Yeah, nobody on LDSO likes Tron Evolution. I'm sorry if you people are disappointed to hear that out there, but we don't like it. We hate it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, maybe hate is a strong word, but we definitely don't like it.
Yeah.
And also, they never released any official modding tools for it.
No.
So we could probably still mod it, but it would be a lot harder. So we just can't be bothered.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. I mean, yeah, you can work with this one, and like we've said before, this is a game that still holds up pretty well. You know, in a modern context, you can look at this and go, "This still looks pretty good." You know, and you might as well work with that, right? So.
And another thing is that people say, well, you know, if you did it in Unreal or whatever, you know, it looks so much better, blah blah blah. First of all, not really, because of the style of this game. You can get away with it in this engine, but more importantly. This game is so old now. It runs on anything. You know what I mean? It runs on a toaster.
Yeah, exactly. Like I could plug this in. I have an ancient laptop from like I think 2009, 2010 or something on the couch that I use here, and it would with like integrated graphics, and it would probably run like butter on that.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
Which is nice. Yeah, you put this on Unreal, and all of a sudden you really limit down what people can do. Yeah,
because Unreal is probably going to be a bit more demanding. Even if you use simplistic graphics and whatever, it's still going to be more demanding than this engine. So with this thing, it'll run on like your bare bones Intel graphics, whatever, and still probably look just as good.
Yep. So I tell you what, we actually didn't record this map. We didn't record this map before. We did this when we were offline, but we've looped around to it. So you wanted to talk about this a little bit. This is a really interesting map that somebody made. Instead of directly fighting each other, you're kind of like competing in almost like a carnival game kind of thing.
Yeah. This one's made by Zook1, who's a member of LDSO. And he wanted to do something really different from the typical Disc Arena map, and it sure is. He even has an Easter egg with a target range where you shoot like long distance targets. It's kind of neat. But of course the other maps that we saw were like Discs of Tron, more or less, same thing. But this here, like you said, it's like a shooting gallery. The idea is to race through each room and hit the target as fast as you can to reach the end before your opponent does, and that's how you win, is by hitting the targets the fastest. So it's a very different concept from, you know, the typical Disc Arena maps. And
this is really neat. Like it's really like, this just shows the inventiveness of some of these guys here. Like, this is something that I'm sure Monolith didn't have the slightest clue would ever be done with their game when they created it, but he managed to take the mechanics and mechanical limitations of discs of the Disc Arena mode and did something completely crazy with it.
Yeah.
That totally works too.
Did the game put you in those rooms to do some target shooting yet?
Yeah, no, I've been doing it here. I'm actually competing with somebody right now.
I can't tell if you are or you aren't.
Yeah, no, we're I guess so, because that's the only issue with this map is that it's the matches can take quite a while.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's like with the other Disc Arena maps, there's like an observation lobby where you can watch the other players.
Yeah.
And here with this map, you can't. You don't get to watch. You have to wait until the other players are finished.
Exactly. Yeah. But this is definitely different. And again, this is the kind of this is why mods are awesome, because you're able to do crazy stuff like this with them that the designers never intended, but they managed to pull off.
Yeah, I'm sure Monolith never in a million years would have thought somebody would have come up with something like this.
No, I'm sure some of the guys who worked on this would probably look at that and just go, "Holy crap, really?" And it's a really neat neat idea.
The Tron 2.0 team member that I interviewed, we asked him, we said, how come you didn't do that Pong mode? Like in the film how Flynn has that scoop, with the ball?
Yeah.
He's fighting the other guy, Crom, there, We said, how come you didn't do that? That would have been cool too, being able to throw a ball and knock out the rings with the ball. And he said, yeah, well, we wanted to, but it was too similar to the other game mode, Disc Arena. So we didn't want to like put extra resources into it, if it was going to be more or less the same thing. So we didn't do it for that reason. It's
no,
like,
I guess I can kind of understand that, but yeah, it's it would have been interesting to see though for sure. Holy jeez, this one is really interesting.
Yeah, so that's too bad. But
what the hell? Friggin' security guy spawned in. Yeah.
Oh, you mean Sark? Did Sark show up?
Yeah. I was trying to shoot at the target, and yeah, I guess it's the if you hit the things on the side of the target, he.
Oh yeah, the ICPs, right?
Yeah, the ICP spawned in. I was like, ah.
I thought you'd reach the point where you meet Sark.
Oh.
Well, you don't get to fight him, but you see him.
Oh
so,
boy.
Well, maybe you'll still see him.
Oh man, yeah, this will be interesting. But well, so we've gone through all the maps in here. So we've I'm gonna keep digging away at this here, but yeah, so we've yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this multi-part look at the Tron 2.0 multiplayer. This was yeah, this was a ton of fun. I definitely see why you guys wanted to keep this going, because this was damn fun when it was new, and it's still pretty damn fun to this day.
Yeah, just wish we had more people. Well, okay, it's partly because of the nature of the multiplayer and having to install a separate fix, use an external program. A lot of people don't know about it, and they think the game is dead because of that.
Yeah.
Since it's broken right now, and you need a fix. So most people don't realize that you can still play it. In fact, you could still even play it without the fix. It's just very difficult then.
It's just tricky, yeah, exactly.
You need the IP address of the server to join it. There's a way to do it from within the game. You can type in the IP address and you'll join the server.
Yeah.
But, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to have to go look up an IP address and type it in.
No, certainly not.
So that's why I created that fix, which works, but obviously it's not ideal.
Yeah.
It would be great if it would be, back in the game itself that you could join servers, and I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So.
No, exactly. You guys are digging into it, so I'm hoping that can be done. But yeah, if you guys have access to this game or can find it, there actually are still a few places you can buy this. I did see there are copies. I don't know if it's probably not sold by them directly, but you can actually search for Tron 2.0 on Amazon.com, and you actually will find copies of it there. I don't actually know what they cost. They're probably like $1,000 or something stupid.
No, yeah, pretty much Amazon and eBay are the only places you can get it now, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
I wish Dog would get it. They probably
maybe someday.
Yeah, but it's not, at least not now. It's not expensive. Around the time that Legacy came out, oh yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you saw the prices shoot up on this game. They were gouging people for it.
Interesting. Yeah. So if this does interest you guys, there are ways to get it, and yeah. So well, why don't you, Rob? Why don't you let people know, I guess, where they can find out both about your mod and I guess about just to find out info on the game in general and what you guys are doing with it.
Okay. Well, our mods are featured on ModDB, so if you want to, do a search for either killer app mod or user error, you'll find them there very easily. But also, we have our own site. We have a website with like a forum and a wiki. Although, unfortunately, right now our site is having problems. I think our host did something. They made some changes, and our site's kind of broken at the moment. So don't be surprised if you visit it right now that it doesn't work properly, but we'll get it fixed. Yeah, LDSO.net. So we have like a forum and a wiki and a download page and all that stuff. So, if you want to take a look at our stuff, that's where you can go. And there's also a link on the front page of LDSO to my blog site, which is called Tron 2.0 News. And there's some stuff on there too. That's mainly where people go to get the files, is they go there first actually. So.
Cool. Well, yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, no, if you seriously, if modding a game intimidates you, I would say don't worry about it with this one. It's pretty straightforward. There's a very easy to follow instructions, and pretty much everything you need just has an automated installer that makes it pretty hands off. I literally had no issues getting this going. I just installed the game, applied the stuff, and away I went. So it's pretty cool, but. There's some neat stuff to see here, and yeah, I thought the single player was pretty good, and yeah, this takes what was already a cool multiplayer experience and definitely amps it up a few notches. But well, listen, well, Rod, thanks for hanging out with me this evening. We got a whole bunch of stuff recorded here, and yeah, this was a ton of fun. I'm definitely hope I get to play a bunch of this more with you guys in the not too distant future.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I mean, thanks for taking the time to take a look at our stuff, and thanks for inviting me on. Sure.
Absolutely. So, yeah, well, thank you guys very much for watching. As usual, if you like what you saw here, please like and subscribe. It does help me out a great deal. And, yeah, if you want to get in on this yourself, there are ways to do it. So I'll put a link to the various websites we talked about in the description, so you can easily find out a way to get in on this yourself if you want. But thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next time.